All right, we are going to record information on how to set up our AFDA notebook, as well as our first lesson on solving linear equations. So as you can see, I have a one-subject spiral notebook. No need to get anything larger. We're going to start off with our table of contents. You'll notice that I have labeled it. I have put 1A, solving linear equations. I also have the page number. I'm going to leave the next 2 pages blank so that we can fill them in as we go. And I'm going to flip over to my first page, which is technically my 4th page, but it's going to be our first page of our notes. I have my title, which is solving linear equations. Before we can solve linear equations, we need to understand what an equation is. An equation is a mathematical sentence that contains an equal sign. There is going to be something on the left and something on the right-hand side of the equal sign. In order for us to solve equations, we are going to use this fun mnemonical device. Don't call me after midnight. I'm going to give this to you in class so that you can tape it or glue it into your notebooks. I'm going to tape mine so that it doesn't move. You can use tape or glue. And I'm going to use my highlighter to highlight the letters. Don't corresponds with distribute. Anytime we see the distributive property, we want to take care of that first before we can do any solving. So we want to do the D first. After that, we want to combine like terms. That's anything that is similar, anything with the same variable or constants. Then we want to move the variable to the same side using addition or subtraction and multiplication or division, no particular order. So again, we will use the device don't call me after midnight for distribute, combine like terms, move the variable, add or subtract, and multiply or divide. So we're going to go through a few examples to help us work through one-step, two-step, and multi-step equations. So our first example, as you can see here, is x plus 5 equals 12. I'm going to look at my cell phone here. I don't have any parentheses, so I don't need to distribute. I only have one variable. And because there's an equal sign, I can't combine these because they're not on the same side. So I might make a note here that says combine like terms on the same side only. So in order for me to do this problem, I need to subtract because I want to do the inverse or the opposite of what I have here. So I'm going to subtract 5, and what I do to one side, I must do to the other side. I'm going to bring down the x and the equal sign, and I'm going to take 12 minus 5, which is 7. Now that I have found that x is 7, I want to check my work to make sure that it is in fact correct. So I'm going to replace the x in the problem with the 7, and I'm going to add 7 plus 5. And I can use my calculator or my given calculator, which is my brain, to add 7 plus 5, which does in fact equal 12. And so we have the correct answer. Our next problem is negative 6 times x equals negative 18. Again, I do not have parentheses, so I don't need to distribute. I do not have the same variable on the same side. I only have one, so I don't need to combine like terms. The variable's already on one side. I don't have addition or subtraction, so now I'm going to do the inverse of multiplication, which is to divide by the negative 6. And remember, when you divide a negative by a negative, it is positive, so that means that x is going to be a positive 3. And I can again check my answer by taking negative 6 and multiplying that by 3, and it does in fact equal a negative 18. I'm now going to move over to my second page, page 2. So I'm going to label it page 2. Even though we are still on the same topic, we want to label it based off of what we have going on. I'm going to cover up my other examples here. All right, so now we're going to solve 4a plus 2 minus 6. And I'm going to use my little cell phone. I have an extra one here. You can flip back to Don't Call Me After Midnight. So I'm going to look to see if there's any parentheses to use the distributive property. There is not. Do I have more than one like term, variables, or constants on the same side? I do not, because the 2 and the negative 6 are on opposite sides of the equal sign. The variable is on one side, so I don't need to move it. So what I'm going to start with is addition or subtraction. Remember to do the inverse. So I am going to subtract 2 from both sides. I'm going to bring down what's left. 4a equals negative 6 minus 2. That means we're going further away from 0, so we are at negative 8. Again, you can use your calculator. Now I'm going to multiply or divide. Well, the inverse of multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide by 4. So a is equal to 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. I'm going to check my work. So I'm going to take 4 times negative 2 plus 2. And I'm going to solve it using my order of operations. 4 times 2 is 8, and because it's negative 8 plus 2. So this time, instead of subtracting, I'm adding, which means I'm getting closer to 0. So this is in fact negative 6. And so we have just checked our solution. You may pause at any time to take time to copy or to go back and review things. We have another example, which is x divided by 2, little different of a problem, minus 18 equals 15. Again, I'm still going to use Don't Call Me After Midnight. No parentheses, so I don't need to distribute. My like terms are on opposite side of the equal sign, so I cannot combine them. My variable is already on one side, so I don't need to move it. I'm going to add 18 to both sides. So I'm going to drop down x divided by 2 is equal to 15 plus 18 is 33. Now, instead of dividing, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. You can use the dot product or you can use the parentheses. And what this does is this allows me to simplify that, because 2 divided by 2 is 1. So I have x is equal to 66. I'm going to check my work. 66 divided by 2 minus 18. Well, 66 divided by 2 is 33. And then I'm going to subtract 18 from 33, and in fact I get 15. Again, pause at any time to copy it down. Number 5. We have things that look a little different. This time around, I have more going on. My problem's a little bit longer. I still do not have parentheses to distribute. However, I do have things that look similar on the same side. So what I want to do is I want to combine the 6x and the negative 2x. I want to do what it says, 6x minus 2x. So that's like 6 apples minus 2 apples will leave me with 4x plus 8 equals negative 4. Now it looks similar to the one that we did up here. So it's a two-step problem where we are going to subtract 8 from both sides. That's the inverse. bring down the 4x. Negative 4 minus 8 is negative 12. Then we are going to divide both sides by 4, and x is equal to negative 3. I'm going to check my solution. 6 times negative 3 minus 2 times negative 3 plus 8, I'm hoping is equal to negative 4. That's the question. So 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. Negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6 plus 8. Negative 18 plus 6 is negative 12 plus 8. Negative 12 plus 8 is in fact negative 4, and so it worked out for us. And our last example should look a lot different than what we've seen before, because now we are including those parentheses. So now we're going to use our distributive property. So the very first thing we want to do is when we distribute, we want to multiply everything outside the parentheses only to what's inside. So this 3 is going to be multiplied times the c and times the positive 3. So we have 3c plus 9 plus 5 equals 7c minus 2. Now we have to check to see if we have like terms. I have a c here and a c here, but they're on opposite sides of this equal sign, so I can't move them yet. I'm first going to combine the 9 plus the 5. So I have 3c plus 14 is equal to 7c minus 2. So I've taken care of my first two options. My next option is to move the variable. Now here's where you have a choice. If I move the 7 to the left so that the c is on the left, I'm going to have a negative number, which is okay, but I prefer to keep my variable positive. So I'm actually going to subtract the 3c and bring it over to the right. That leaves me with a 14 equals a 4c minus 2. Now I'm going to add 2 to both sides, and so I have 16 equals 4c, and I'm going to divide by 4, and so I have that c is equal to 4 because 16 divided by 4 is c. And I want to double check my answer. So 3 times 4 plus 3 plus 5 we hope is equal to 7 times 4 minus 2. I'm going to solve the left side first. 3 times 4 plus 3 is 7 plus 5, because we do what's in parentheses first. Now I'm going to multiply 3 times 7, which is 21, plus 5, and I'm going to get 26. I hope that that matches the other side. 7 times 4 is 28, and 28 minus 2 is 26. And since they match, we have the same answer. So here is your first lesson on solving linear equations. We have done one-step, two-step, multi-step with the variables on one side, and multi-step with the variables on two sides. We will continue to do more practice in class. Please bring any questions that you have. You may write the questions on the other side of your paper. Notice I stayed on only one side and I didn't write on both, so that if I had questions, I could write them here.